Hey, Toronto, welcome to How's the Market? I'm Dave and joined by Miss Tara Doyle here. Can you give us a little backstory on how you got into real estate and why you love it so much?
Sure. I worked for two not-for-profits actually in Muskoka, totaling about 12 years of not-for-profit organizations, and I had the best time and I had the best job. I always felt like there was something missing, something more that I wanted to do. So real estate was just something I've always had a lot of interest in and wanted to pursue. I had two little kids and decided to go back to school after doing all of that work here in Muskoka. And it proved to be the best thing that I could have asked for. I actually started right at the beginning of COVID, and
Started work
it
or
was
the exams?
I
Started.
started work. My
Okay.
first day at work in real estate was February 2020. So
Interesting time to start a new career.
I, I thought I was pretty dead in the water. I thought I was it was maybe not the right choice at the right time based
Yeah.
on what was happening with COVID, but it ended up being the best thing that happened to me. I had a great contact base as well from those two previous jobs, both at the theater in Bracebridge and then the Gravenhurst Chamber of Commerce. I've made some great contacts over the
Yeah.
years. Not only that, but I grew up here. So I've been here my whole life, other than I left to go to university. And then I always knew I wanted to come home.
And how have you found your career starting off in real estate? You're loving it?
I love
Some
it.
days.
I thought that I thought I would, and I do. And it's been I think I love it even more than I thought I would. It's stressful. There's a lot more to it than I think a lot of people realize. But yeah, it's busy and I love the flexibility.
Every day is a challenge, but it's very rewarding. So,
Every day is a
yeah.
challenge, every day is different. Right now I'm working on a few closings this week, and they're running into issues, every one of them. So I'm dealing with lawyers
Yeah.
and trying to
Yeah.
get those deals closed, and it's not always easy, but I think that's what I like about it. It's a challenge and it's different every day. So
The
yeah.
portion of the deal from going firm to close has become has taken on a lot more work in the last few months, I'd say. And still the majority of the deals close. It's just sometimes there might be an extension or something else needs to be taken care of. Before, stuff was closing so fast, especially like in 30
Yeah.
days. So it almost, by the time you go firm, it's okay, let's plan the movers. Do we have time to do everything? It just
Yeah.
happens like that.
I
But
think
with longer closes, there can be more little details that you have to work out.
yes.
So,
And a lot of the deals during COVID were pretty straightforward. There were, the cleaner that deal, the better
yeah,
to even get something through. So I feel like there's more to the deals
yeah,
now that we're through that. I think
yeah,
there's a lot of things that we do that a lot of people don't they don't
yeah.
see, but that's
Oh,
okay.
for
We're
sure. So,
rolling with the punches every day.
how is the market in Muskoka? We just passed the Canada Day long weekend.
Yeah.
Started to be cottage time, and probably that time of year where people think maybe we'll look at getting a cottage or upgrading the cottage or downsizing the cottage.
Hmm.
How is the market going up there? Can you give us an update?
Yeah, no, the market is good. The market is good here in Muskoka. We're obviously down since COVID a little bit. The numbers are down, but we're definitely seeing still a strong desire to be here in Muskoka. And
Yeah,
I really don't see that changing. There's always been that there's something about this place. So,
there's
and
an
I've
allure.
always felt it. So I think we'll always have that. And I think what COVID did is just highlight it. And it showed a lot of people who maybe hadn't considered it, how great it is to be here, whether it's seasonally or year round. We're definitely seeing more. We're seeing more residential sales. Um, Inventory continues to be lower than I think we'd like to see it, but we're still seeing those deals happen. And the numbers are still, even though we're down in numbers in price and
Yeah,
value, we're still seeing those numbers are pretty decent still. And I don't think we'll see pre-COVID numbers again here in Muskoka.
no,
I would be surprised. I
yeah,
shouldn't say that maybe so certainly, but I would
you
be
never
I
know.
would be surprised. It's a great place to be, and I think more and more people are just seeing that every single day.
So talk me through the process. Somebody who wants to get a cottage up in Muskoka, they've probably been to a bunch of friends, maybe family cottages. What's the process you take them through? A first time cottage buyer.
Yeah, I always say, first of all, we have actually a really wide range of land here. Like,
Yeah.
actually, Muskoka is quite large. I think it surprises people. You can end up way out somewhere and it's 2 hours away from the next one. So you really have to map yourself out. So I
Yeah.
really think that location is number one. You need to decide where in Muskoka and
Yeah.
the type of lake that you want to be on as well. So we're seeing, we've always had the big three as a really strong
What are
and,
the big three?
sorry, big three: Lake Joseph, Lake Rosso, and Lake
Muskoka.
Muskoka.
Yeah.
So those are the big three. They all connect, and the hub is Port Carling. So you work your way out from Port Carling
Yeah.
value wise. And then, but we have a lot of other really fabulous lakes here in Muskoka. And I think that's something that COVID really did as well, is it really gave people an
How many
idea
lakes?
of,
You mentioned to me before.
yeah, there are 1,600 lakes,
Wow.
around 1,600 lakes in Muskoka.
You went and counted them all and memorized all the names of them. And
I know a lot of them from being here my whole life, but there are times where I go, I'll have to look that one up, like where that lake is.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, COVID really showed a lot of people that a lot of people are outpriced from those big three now. You can be on a really beautiful smaller lake and experience Muskoka just the same way. So I think
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
COVID did as well, is it really opened it up to all of the other lakes.
To get into the big three, is there a price point we're looking at?
You
Where you
can
don't have
still
to
use
do any work, you can go in turnkey and
to do no work, just buy and be
yeah, to buy
on.
something. It doesn't have to be brandly, it doesn't be fresh renovated, but functional and fine to use.
Yeah, I would say 1.5 to 2 million to get
Okay.
something livable. But
Yeah.
the other piece of this is whether you're year-round access, or if you're
Seasonal.
okay
Yeah.
with an island property or water access only property. Yeah, and I have
It,
a lot of clients who say to me, I want to buy a cottage in Muskoka, but I'm up to 1 million. And that's still doable. We can
yeah.
still do up to 1 million. Maybe not on the big three, like move-in ready, but we're looking at some of the smaller lakes at that price point and probably doing a bit of work as well.
Yeah. And just refresh me. Where does Muskoka start? Right at Weber's.
Severn Bridge. No,
Yeah.
Weber's is still Aurelia. So
Okay.
about Severn Bridge right there. And it actually runs through Sparrow Lake, and then it actually goes over to Port Severn as well. So it's quite large.
Quite
And
big.
then
Yeah.
way up to Perry Sound and down. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's a lot of land. Like I had a realtor call me and tell me that they weren't going to make their showing on one of my listings on Lake Muskoka. And she was way out Port Cunnington Road, down into the peak of the pier of Lake of Bays.
Wow.
She told me that she wasn't going to make it. Unfortunately, they were 2 hours away from when they were supposed to be there at that time. But yeah, you think you're going to go to Muskoka and be able to zip around, but there's a lot of rural areas as well, and a lot of
And
land. Yeah.
there is a lot of land, and because you have so many lakes, it's not necessarily straight. You've
It's
got
not a
to.
straight shot. You need to be driving around. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not the direct path there.
No.
So what else does somebody who's looking to purchase their first cottage vacation property need to think about in terms of financing? I imagine that's a little bit different than a primary residence.
Yep. Back to the whole year-round access or water access can prove to be a bit more challenging with lenders.
Yeah.
Some lenders will do them and some just won't. It goes back to also using your local professionals. A mortgage broker around here will know who those lenders are who will help get that deal done. Same with the lawyers. It's great to use your local professionals to make sure that you can get a deal through right to the end. There's quite a few things. When someone's looking for a cottage anywhere, not just in Muskoka, there's the shoreline road allowance. That's the number one thing that I always look at. I want to make sure that whether it's owned or not, and it's not that it's a huge issue if it's unowned. There's a lot of unowned shoreline road allowances here in Muskoka. The issue is if they ever want to do something, if they need something that's permitted, if you want to build that big permanent dock or a boathouse, that's where it becomes something where you need to know. And sometimes it's tough if you're not from the area. So there's a lot of things like that where you really need to make sure that your client knows exactly what they're buying. I hear horror stories of clients who find out on closing day that they don't own their shoreline. And that's something that I think is really the most important thing
Yeah.
when you're buying waterfront. You want to look at a lot of different things like the access. Sometimes the access can be very difficult when you're back down those rural roads. You want to make sure that you're able to get to it okay and that there's no issues with title as well for access, approachments or right of ways, that kind of thing.
And also if it's
You want to
if the cottage road is being plowed, if you have access to it too.
exactly that. Yeah. Whether or not it's a private road or a municipally
Yeah.
maintained road, it all matters. In terms of value, the things that people are mostly looking for, and this is something I'll go through with my clients as well, is whether they're what the exposure is. There's a lot of people out there who won't buy a cottage unless they're getting that sunset at night. West is usually when you get your all day sun. People really like that. And then I have other clients who are actually in really big budget range that say the sun goes up, the sun goes down. They don't really mind one way or another. But in terms of value, those things are what people are mostly looking for. They look at the exposure as well. And then septic and well, those things are really important to consider. I think a lot of people don't realize even how to maintain it, what to do, what you need to do every year, every 5 years to ensure that you're drinking clean water
Yeah.
and that you're maintaining your septic system so it lasts a long time. So those are things that we will go through and make sure we have all that information before getting their dream cottage.
Is that usually presented with a home inspection report, the status of all those?
It'll all depend on whether or not we're in multiples and
Yeah,
then
there's
whether
always
or
that
not they want
factor.
to take on that risk. Yeah, it's my job to make sure that they know all of their risks going into it, and then they can make their decision whether they want to ensure that there is an inspection done on those important things. But at least getting the paperwork and knowing that the septic is big enough for the amount of bedrooms in the house and how old it is and all of the information that's good to have in advance. And getting a potable water test as well is
Yeah.
important for a mortgage. So those are the things that we want to make sure we're watching out for as well.
In terms of thinking about the waterfront, having a beachfront versus the dreaded
Mm.
lily pads and leads with the gicky bottom that nobody
Yeah,
likes.
yeah, that's also very important for value and resale
Yeah.
as well. So the beachfront and low-lying land is what people really mostly are after. You hear a lot that the grandchildren are looking, or they want their grandchildren to be safe and to be able to get into the water, into clean water as well. So that's another thing that we haven't really touched on is just the quality of the water, the depth of the water. A lot of people want the best of both worlds. They'd love a little area for their grandchildren to get into, but then also to be able to jump off the dock
Right.
and not touch that icky bottom water. So yeah, and then others don't mind at all. It all is personal preference as well. But what I normally say to my clients is pick your top three because there's not going to be the absolute perfect property unless you have the perfect budget for it. You need to pick location for me is usually number one. Where do you want to be? How far from the GTA? We get that a lot. How long of a drive from the GTA?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
if that's not a 3 hour, 4 hour drive is fine, then we can go up a bit more north where they can get more house. They can get maybe the low lying waterfront with the beach area that they're looking for in a better price range.
Do you find
Yeah.
that the vacation home cottage stays in families usually for multi generations, or is it people they have it for 3, 4, 5 years and then they decide to move on to something else?
I think it's a variety. We see a lot of multi generational cottages. And it is actually desirable. It's considered a feature in my mind when I'm looking at a description and I see first time offered in 40 years or
Yeah.
something along those lines. That cottage has been maintained well enough to keep it going throughout the generations. Yeah, it's usually something that is a nice thing to see that it hasn't had a lot of turnover. When you see a lot of turnover, it makes you question what's going on and why. I think a lot of the times is a personal thing. It's usually nothing to do with the cottage, but
Yeah.
it does bring up those questions.
Any other advice we have for first time buyers? Have your deposit check ready?
Yeah, I think it's just a lot of it comes down to ensuring it's the right thing for your family. If you're ready to have that secondary property that also comes with a lot of other, I don't want to say challenges, but things to maintain. There's a lot of
Yeah.
things that you have to consider, and you have to be able to afford it, number one. And I think budget is a really important thing to stick to. I really try not to overdo it. If I'm dealing with a client who says 1.2 is my budget and I can't go any higher, then I'm not sending them properties that are any higher, or maybe just a tad bit higher in case we can get it a bit less. But really have to stick to the budget, because then down the road they're going to call me and say I can't afford it anymore, and that's
Yeah.
not anything that I want to would like to hear either. So I
When
think you
you're
just need to make sure it's the right thing for your family and that you're ready to
right,
take on that secondary property.
is furniture, boats, jet skis, that sort of stuff usually included in the purchase, or is it the
Yes.
majority?
So if it's
Yeah.
a cottage, but there's a lot of lakefront homes, the home year-round homes that people live in year-round. So it depends. Like if it's a cottage and it's been used as a cottage, then we're definitely going to see typically the furniture continuing to be transferred over to the new
Yeah.
buyers. It just makes it that much easier. It's a huge expense that you don't have to take on when you're buying. So
Yeah.
that's a big one to consider. It's tough when you have a home that you have sellers who are that's their home, they've been living there year round. This just
Yeah.
happened to be in Cashew Lake. She was moving into an in-town home, and she was taking all her furniture with her. But the new buyers they're cottagers. They're buying this property to cottage at. So
Yeah.
it's tough. You want the furniture included, but when that happens, then yeah, the furniture is not going to be included usually. And the jet skis and the boats, people do try to throw those in as well.
Yeah. They always want the toys.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
toys, yeah. All the toys. And it's okay in a lot of cases, especially if it's a cottage and they're choosing not to cottage anymore. Anything that's more valuable, like that boat or sea-doo, those things sometimes need to be worked out separately. Um, you don't really want to tack those onto a mortgage, or
Yeah.
that can be an issue sometimes too. So
Yeah.
yeah, those are when they get into a higher price range, usually best to negotiate those on the side.
Do you have a favorite lake?
I do have a favorite lake. I live very close to Cashy Lake. I have a big soft spot for Cashy. We just bought ourselves like we're not right on Cashy, but we have a boat now that we have a slip that we go out. So I just love it. I think Cashy Lake is becoming more and more popular. It's very close to the GTA. In some
Yeah.
spots, it's under an hour and a half to get to
Yeah.
Cashy Lake. It's very
And sorry, where is
picturesque.
it located? You're
So
just north
it's
of
just
Aurelia.
yeah, just it is just north of Aurelia on the east side of the highway.
Yeah.
And it's
The
it's
biggest is it the biggest lake or second biggest lake in Muskoka?
no.
I'm
So
trying to
there's a
remember.
bit of a debate on Cashy
Okay.
Lake. So Cashy, some say it's the fourth, some say it's the fifth biggest
Okay.
lake in Muskoka. So Lake Joe, Rosso, and Muskoka are the biggest lakes. And I personally haven't done enough digging to really know to say 100%, but I think Lake of Bays is the fourth, and then
Okay.
Cashy Lake would be the fifth.
For
And there's
fourth
some bigger
place.
lakes up in Hunt Cove.
The battle for fourth place.
Yes. Yeah, but it's interesting because it has very little year-round access cottages. I think 40 some. I had a client who I
Oh
haven't, and
wow.
again, I haven't, there aren't many year-round cottages on Kashi. So there's actually three marinas to get people out to their water access properties. And a lot of them aren't on islands. They're mainland, but they're still only water access.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's a very beautiful lake though. It's
It is.
very granite, the wispy pines, it's all there. And a lot of different bays and inlets, and it's
Is it a
just
pretty deep
beautiful.
lake? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's deep.
Yeah.
It's a deep lake. It's a tea color. Some people are, it's the same, I want to say it's the same color as Lake Muskoka. I
Okay.
call it a tea color, but it's clean. And some people say it's magical. I think it's magical. But I think a lot of people think anything waterfront is magical, especially here in Muskoka. But yes, my soft spot is Cashy for sure.
And so how have you found in Muskoka, similar to in Toronto, we divide the market looking at it because I find the segments are very different when you're under 2 million mark versus when you get into your luxury, which can be over 2 million or over 3 million. How have
Hmm.
you found the two performing this year? Has there been a difference or is it similar?
I think the luxury properties are becoming a little tougher to attain. They're at a price point that maybe even the people who can afford that price point are maybe holding back a little bit more just to ensure with what's going on in the market that they're protected and not overspending. So I think we're seeing some drops in the luxury for sure. People are still able, I think, to an attainable price point is 1 to 1.5 million that gets them something that they can,
Yeah.
that is move-in ready, doesn't have to be on one of those big lakes. And I'm still seeing a lot of that. What I'm really seeing more of this year is that people are looking to live on the waterfront. Like I people coming from the city who have decided that now it's now time that they want to be on water, but they don't want two properties. So they want to amalgamate. They want a beautiful home that is on waterfront. So I'm seeing that, and I have that price range, maybe the 2.5 price range, and that will get you something really nice on a smaller lake.
I imagine people that are looking to do that maybe still working remotely. And
Mhm.
the internet access is always a question if you're working remotely. But I think
As a big
Starlink's coming in, right? Or is it there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I say that a lot. I say it was a huge thing at first,
yeah,
but now since Starlink has become, a little bit easier to get as well, most people are able to get what they need in terms of connection
yeah.
or Wi-Fi connection. And that's what COVID did too here in Muskoka. COVID really pushed that into gear because we're seeing more and more towers and people taking it on as an independent business to get that Wi-Fi out to the more rural areas.
Better cell coverage too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Any listings you want to share?
Yeah, well, we have one. We have one on Couchog
Yeah,
Lake in Halliburton. And actually, I was just going to say, I think when I was talking about the best of both worlds, and I put that in the description because I feel like the waterfront, the property of that piece of that listing is spectacular.
I think when we
It's got
both
the
went to
deep,
see it, we were both like, "Wow, this is a
yeah,
special
it's the
sandy beach
problem.
on a point.
Yeah,
It's very nice."
yeah. Exactly. It's a beautiful listing. And yeah, and the house is very large, it's chalet style. It's a really nice piece of property with a big home on it that I think will be amazing if somebody wants to do a little bit of work to it. It has great access as well, right off of Highway 118.
Yeah,
That one's a really lovely listing and has the beach and the jump off the dock. Yeah, I have one right now on Cashy Lake as well. It's a smaller home, but it is a year round, which is great for Cashy Lake. It's listed at 699 and it's a fabulous Airbnb right now. It is called Cashy Cove if anyone wants to look at it on Airbnb, and if they're looking for an investment property, I think it's the perfect investment property. It's right near the Nagaya Beach and has a 40-foot steel dock. And it's a great little cottage for anyone looking
nice.
to get into the market on a really great lake at a great price.
Have you seen a lot of Airbnbs start to make their way up, and people they're Airbnb their cottage when they're not using it?
Yeah, it happens all the time. I get that a lot. I want to purchase this cottage for my family, but in the times that we're not there, we'll look into renting it.
Yeah,
The rental market, I think, is decreasing a little bit, but we're still seeing a lot of people looking for investment properties and a lot of people looking to come here to Muskoka for a week, and that's it. I'm still seeing this one specifically is it's a great price point too. So it's still in a price point that people can afford, and they're a super host, and it's a fabulous little spot to come for a week and have
nice.
some fun.
I've seen a lot more off-market deals. Is that same thing in Muskoka?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
personally have had the most off-market deals this year.
yeah.
yeah, it's odd, but it's working.
My sort of thought of why it's become a little bit more prevalent is people that are like, okay, if we get this price, we'll try it. But I don't necessarily want to go through the exercise of putting it on MLS in case it just hangs around and becomes
Yeah,
a zombie listing. And then it got a stigma. Why didn't it sell? Even if you go to sell it two
yeah,
years later, you're like, oh, okay, that they tried to sell that before. Didn't happen.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of that. If
Yeah.
they can continue to afford it and they still want to use it or have it for their family, but there's a certain price that will take it. And so yeah, put it on exclusive and see if anybody can find the right buyer for it. But for me, I had one that sold, I had a listing that sold off market. I took it off because we listed it in the winter. And then I took it off so that we could refresh it, that we could put it back up with some really nice photos. And while it was off, the very first people who saw it in the winter came back and bought it while it was off market.
As soon as
So
they can't have it, they want it, right?
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh shoot, where did it go? And yeah, and I think they've been thinking about it. That was one of my off markets, and then also just trying to get a client of mine something that she loved in the right area, and it was a coming soon, and we were able to get it before
Nice.
it hit the market. So those
What
types of things will happen from time to time, but more
Yeah.
this year I find than the
Is
last
there a
couple of years.
seasonal time when to start looking?
Depends, like it depends what you're looking for. So if and it's been very typical for Muskoka, so we see once May 2-4 hits here, it's listing after listing of people preparing and prepping through the winter, getting maybe some last minute renovations done through the
Yeah.
winter, and then getting those great shots once the snow is gone and then getting it up. Yeah, so we see a really huge influx in inventory in the spring. And back to what you were saying about Canada Day weekend, I've personally found long weekends to be slow. I think people are not really thinking about it at the time. They're there to enjoy their
Yeah.
long weekend with their family, and they just want to have a nice time. But after, yeah. So then yesterday, so the Monday after, a long weekend. It was a few showings on the properties that I thought maybe we'd see over the long weekend, but I
Yeah.
think a lot of people spend their time here in Muskoka. They come here for a visit and then they just fall in love. And that's when they start thinking, maybe we should get something rolling for summer. Quick closings are usually possible with a cottage if it's vacant, there's nobody in it.
Yeah.
So we can still do a quick closing so that people can enjoy the rest of this summer still this year. So
Yeah.
that's all very doable too.
And then I guess the second busiest time would be fall as the summer's wound
Yeah,
up,
we
or
see in September, once the kids go back to school, we see an influx as
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And buyers too come out of the woodworks and think, I think maybe we should try and find something now. But I get that question a lot. When's the best time to buy a cottage? And my answer is always the same because I think it's all relative. So in the spring, we see a lot more inventory, but a lot more buyers as well.
Yeah.
But in the fall, you've got less inventory usually, typically, and less buyers. So it all works itself out in the wash. And I don't think there's a perfect time to come in and buy a cottage. I think all times are a perfect time to come in and buy a
Yeah.
cottage.
It's when you find the one right for you to go after it.
That's right. It doesn't have to be, am I going to get a better deal at this certain time? It's not like that. It will be very market driven in general. If you want to buy a cottage, a lot of people will buy a cottage in the fall to, like I say, it may be a fixer. So they may take some time. They may get some things fixed through the winter and then it's ready to go for May 2-4. So it just
Nice.
depends what the best time is for your family and for your lifestyle.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us and talking all things Muskoka. Hopefully you can come
Yeah,
back and maybe we'll talk about the Kawarthas.
yeah, sure.
Yeah. So we'll
Let's
share
do
all
it.
your contact information and where everyone
Great.
can reach out to you if they decide they want to move up north to Muskoka or Kawarthas.
I'm here if anyone wants a cottage or they want to live here in Muskoka because it really is a beautiful place to be.
It
So
is.
thank
It
you for
is.
having me, Dave.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and make sure you hit the subscribe button if you want Tara to come back, talk about the Kawarthas, and share some more stats. Take care, everyone. We'll see you.
Thank you.